But let's jump into our next story. This has mixed reactions from you yesterday. We'd love to get your thoughts on it right now. Emirati billionaire argues that banks should stay open during the long holidays. Khalif al-Habtoor needs no introduction. He stated that Dubai is a city with billions in financial transactions, and therefore banking should be classed as a vital sector and therefore should stay open on the long weekend holidays.
Now, he posted his argument on X stating, I realize that official holidays are a right for all employees, whether they are in the public or private sector. But this does not necessarily mean that everyone should close their doors. There are vital sectors and places that cannot be closed even for 1 hour, let alone for 3 or 4 days. There are many examples for this, such as airports, hospitals, and even hotels, and of course, etc.
So there he says, airports, hotels, hospitals stay open, why not banks? He followed and summarized that they have their own systems so that employees would take turns working and the institution or entity would make a call on that. And that is what he said. And it's basically surprisingly, they would make a call to provide necessary services to customers around the clock. And he summarized, it's time to reconsider the issue of closing the doors or banks completely during official holidays. This surprised me by the vast mixed bag of reactions, because I saw it, and as a concerned customer, it would be helpful if they're open all the time. Yeah. But I think a lot of people have empathy for the bank staff, which on reconsideration I should as well, that it's not great to have to work long holidays and therefore have consideration for the employees. Where do you sit on it?
Honestly, I do see his point of view. However, I think to play it in a fair way, what would be very, I would say, convenient is, let's say, like people who are actually celebrating Eid should take it as off. People who are not maybe can go to work. You know what I mean? Because then that would be a fair play, because it wouldn't be fair if, let's say, someone who is celebrating Eid is away from family and doing the traditional things.
I've thought about that before, but then where does that sit? So where do the people not celebrating Eid, when do they get their national holidays? And you need to have national holidays aligned with the whole country. So then, like if your husband or partner works in a different group, you need to be able to have the same holiday. So even if it's not your celebration, it still needs to be aligned with the rest of the country.
Yeah. But can they, for example, if I am, let's say, a manager, and I am not going to be giving the holiday for everyone because, the priority is for people who are celebrating the holiday, then maybe what they can do is, for people who are not getting it as a holiday, they can, give them some extra leave days. You know what I mean? After the weekend is, after the holiday is done, right? They can have it as an extra, I don't know.
It's a really interesting to bring up. So what you're saying is allow people celebrating Eid to have their holidays, and then everyone else works on those holidays to make up for it. I don't think that works out because it's not a coming from someone who doesn't celebrate Eid, but I want to use national holidays like everyone else. Yeah. And then therefore, when it comes to my national holidays and I'm working through it, therefore I need to take leave on those holidays. Yeah. And then my national holidays aren't the same as everyone else, because you need to be aligned with the country. So therefore, there's a reason public holidays are as such. Yeah. And it allows everyone to have the same holiday. And therefore, working on public holidays isn't ideal, and therefore you only leave it to the vital sectors, such as hotels, airports. But what he is saying is that banks are vital sectors and we should see them as such.
Regarding that, I'm not really quite sure if banks are very vital sectors. I'm not really quite sure. But if that's the case, then I don't agree with him. If that's the case. Because it's either a 50-50 or it's nothing at all. You know what I mean? Because that as well can be really, if it's a holiday for everyone in the country, then why shouldn't people in the banks, get? What's the necessity that you would really need to go to the bank?
But then if you look, so airports stay open, hotels stay open. So interesting. Mira HRK on Instagram agrees with you. She says, I don't agree to it. In Europe, you don't find people working on public holidays. And then someone else also agrees with you. You say, what about employees? You want them to work during holidays so you can keep an eye on your financial transactions. Someone else said disagree. However, on the agree side, Soso said not all customers are able to use digital banking. Some want to visit the banks in case of large transactions. Think about elderly customers and physical transactions, and also employees working throughout the day. I find it difficult to get to the bank.
Yeah.
So having it open maybe on a more convenient. I don't think they need to be open on long weekend holidays as well. I agree.
Yeah.
But I think banking hours could be relooked at, because I found the hours very difficult to navigate, because they're always open during working hours. I struggle to make bank errands to get them done. They just sit on the long finger for a long time but this is more of a regular banking hours operation versus a public holiday. I agree with you. I think that the less people that would need to work on public holidays, the better. Yeah,
I know. Actually, I think honestly, like if it's a public holiday, then I think we should all respect that. We should all like understand, you know what I mean? Because like not all sectors are the same. Hospital is something. It's an actual emergency. You know what I mean? It's a life. It's someone's health. So that is different than
Vital
when you
sector.
need it's different than you wanting to go to the bank. The bank is like fine, you know what, you can just like wait a few days until the public holiday is done, which is probably like, you know, like the longest one that we've had for 9 days. It's not going to be more than that. You can wait for 9 days.
Or let's take into account that maybe there should be some flexibility. So how often has the country actually shut down for 5 to 9 days, depending on how long your holiday was? It's extremely rare, and probably banks should be able to take that into consideration and apply flexible working, because not to have banks open for 5 days reality, like if you're like, obviously Khalifa Halaptour has a lot going through, so he's a lot of financial concerns. But even if you're moving in that week and you're like, okay, I'm going to move home during that week, I have a lot of things to set up. Not being able to access the bank for 5 days is quite concerning. If you move to the country, if you're moving homes, you need to get checks. There's so many reasons we rely on financial services. So potentially not opening throughout, but having the flexibility that if there's a long period that the banks would be shut, the banks would say, hey, light bulb moment, let's say open on the Wednesday, or let's have half days. And I know not ideal for the employees, but I think maybe it doesn't need to be a always on public holiday system, but a acknowledgement that 5 days is probably too long without banks, and having maybe a 1 day between that there would be working.
They can have like a rota as well, which is implemented in a lot of companies. You know what I mean? Like it's like
he said the same.
Fine. You know what I mean? Like it's either a rota or, which is not fair, what I said at the beginning, that people who are not celebrating the holiday, specifically if it's like a religious holiday.